2 years.
2 years, and you have a whole pineapple.
It looks pretty low maintenance, though. I mean, if that's all you got to do.
Yeah. Heidi's got that's John's wife, by the way, has a pineapple over here growing in a jar. It's just floating in the water.
Yeah.
Because it's a tropical plant, you know.
That jar looks like it was made for it.
Oh, I was wrong. Looks like Nancy's getting on after all. I think we're going to have our usual support crew.
It's a good group to have.
It is a good group. We're very, very blessed to have this bunch of...
They haven't been too critical yet.
I know. They're kind.
Yeah.
Theologically adept.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for Nancy to pipe in and just let us have it.
Yeah, I know. It's like she could really...
How bad would it be? And then Christian's going to jump right in.
Oh, yeah, right. They're so like that. You know? Yeah.
We're not going to talk about Heidi.
Yeah. The mistress of mean. The mistress of mean.
Yes.
Yeah, Heidi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
A rough crowd.
Oh, we've got a chat observation already. That's from Nancy. You guys stink.
Hey, I took a shower like a half hour ago. I even used soap, and it's not even Saturday.
Okay. Welcome to Where It Gets Deep with Jack and John. An unpolished and unapologetically sincere take on God and spirituality. This podcast is a ministry of the First Baptist Church of Abilene, Kansas. All right, I think I'll go ahead and say the prayer this week. All right. We thank you, Lord, for another opportunity to get together. Thank you for our friends, and thank you for all the people out there who are potential listeners to this podcast who might be blessed by the things that we have to talk about. And we just ask, first of all, that you'll help me and John to be able to listen to each other and listen to your Spirit tonight. And the same goes for our friends that are part of this with us. Thank you. Bless us. Help us to process the things that we have seen and heard, as the disciples said. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, I wanted to just give a shout out to the Abilene High School baseball team because they are at this moment competing in the championship game, in the title game of the Pratt Regional Tournament. So hope everything's going real well for them. And okay, that was just why I brought that particular hat tonight, in spite of the fact that it clashes with my clothes.
You looked all right. Looks like you're a fan.
I am a fan. That's my sport, you know. And I like the Abilene High School boys.
Do you miss softball?
Oh man, I miss softball so much. I was playing. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, those were good times.
Do you think we could go back out there and compete again?
You know it.
You think so?
I think about it all the time. Summer's coming. And put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today. Put me in, coach. Ow! I just pulled a hammy.
A hammy.
Okay. So our sermon this past Sunday, which is all of 2 days ago, was on responding to insult. Mm-hmm. And so, as we've been doing, John, I'm gonna just see if you have anything to get us going that you were hearing or thinking about from that before we maybe explore some other avenues?
Well, Heidi brought up, we went over Heidi's notes, and she brought up an interesting idea that how situations we've been involved with and people who've hurt us in the past, that we build walls or we do things to protect ourselves from it happening again and getting hurt. And was part of it about forgiveness too, forgiving your enemies, or more like,
it was. I think it was more implied than, because I don't think I dealt specifically with that theme. But forgiveness is implied in what Jesus teaches about how we respond.
How we respond. Yeah. That's a big deal. Because I mean, I deal with that every day. Yeah. And I can definitely see how to be Christ-like when that happens. I think that I know how Jesus thinks or thought when he was alive, how he would act. I mean, just everything he did was about for other people. And man, when you do that, you take a lot of pressure off yourself. When you're
right. When it's not all about you all the time.
Yeah. It takes your focus off of. I think that's pretty cool.
That reminds me of one part of the message, which had to do with our response to insult has a lot to do with our sense of what's due to us. It has to do with pride, and how inflated our pride is. So if we have this very large sense of what's due to us, that what other people owe us, then we're going to be a lot more likely to respond very, emotionally, very, very negatively, and very harshly to whatever we perceive as insult.
An insult.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to deal with that and be Christ-like? What would Jesus do?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh boy.
Who would ever insult you?
It's hard to nail. Oh boy.
For being a Christian or just being Jack Gilstrap? I could see that.
Both. Being their pastor.
Oh yeah.
I can think of several specific hurtful incidents when people laid into me because of something that they didn't like about how I was running the worship service, or their opinion of my methods, or my preaching, or I can think of one. I can think of one or two that were downright mean.
Really?
Yeah, and those were challenging situations. So I will say that that's been a long time. It's been a long time since anybody was really mean to me about my ministry within the context of our church. But boy, especially in those early years, there were times when that happened. And there's always people who feel like either they feel like you've let them down in some way, so they're gonna. So actually, the hurt that I was receiving was sometimes it was actually secondary hurt because they thought that they'd been hurt, or they'd been let down by
what was your fault?
What I'd done, it was my fault, and And so, so if I was not thinking in those situations, I think I was kind of pre-programmed but to want to try to resolve the situation in a positive way, partly by personality, but also by training. But if I had not been already ready to think that way, I could have really said some mean things myself, driven them away. So then that wall would have been permanent. And there are a lot of times, depending on how I, would take that, might determine whether or not the wall can actually come back down. I try not to get too specific, but man, I can remember one time somebody really insulted my guitar playing, and it was like, and it was because he was mad because I was playing the guitar at all. It was like, why are you bringing that junk into worship? And so then he felt entitled to compare me to whatever his vision of what a good guitarist was, and it was just so mean. It's like, just tell me you don't like the music. You don't have to insult me personally. Yeah. But I didn't take it that.
It's all is it
because I knew he was like, I'm like, okay, this person who in that instance was way older than me, is acting childishly. So somebody's got to be the mature person in this conversation, and it's gonna have to be me.
Maybe it can be a teaching moment.
Yeah, at the very least, it was going to be a healing moment.
Yeah.
Because I knew it wasn't just about that. There was other stuff going on.
Yeah.
He was hurting in other ways, and life was getting him down. And what happens in church was something. Was an area where he could, focus that. But unfortunately, I was the target.
Yeah. No, I think it's all about your perspective, your attitude. And I think you can change your perspective pretty quickly. I know one time when I worked for Martin, I guess I could say his name. I'm not going to cuss him out or anything. He's a good guy, good to me.
Yeah.
And but one day, the night before, he had said something to me that I thought, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
And I was mad. And the next day, I went into work about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And the next day, I was still mad. And I already had it planned out. Say one thing to me, Mark. Just say what. I'm ready. Man, I'm ready. And you're going to get,
right.
You're going to hear what I have to say. And I was mad. And this was also during a time where I had my stuff together,
Yeah.
I was doing stuff on my laptop and participating in some things that were positive. And so it was a sober time in my life. And I lived right across the street from Brookville, at the apartment.
Oh, yeah, right.
And so I start walking. I walk across the Catholic cemetery.
For context, John's talking about a job he had in a restaurant.
Yes.
Brookville was a restaurant.
World's #1 chicken. Trademark copy.
Now gone.
Yeah. So I start walking. I say, okay, I can't go to work like this. I can't do this. And I prayed about it on the way over.
Yeah.
I said, God, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want the results of what might happen if I lose my temper. And I said, I need some wisdom here.
Yeah.
And I'm walking. I get to the highway. I said, okay, what would Jesus, how would Jesus handle this? Okay. And well, he probably wouldn't be as angry or as willing to profess his anger as I was going to be,
Right.
I don't know. But I said, okay, I think he would go in this with some compassion and know that Mark is hurting.
Yeah.
He's going through a lot. He didn't, and he probably doesn't even remember it. So how should I go into this? And by the time I got to the restaurant, I went into the back door with the attitude that I'm here to serve. I'm here to be a light, and a positive influence on him. And before I walked in the door, my whole attitude changed. It did. I went from being mad to, okay, I'm here for a purpose.
Yeah.
That's the word I wanted, because I've told this story before. I need purpose. Mm-hmm. And ended up, I go in there about 15 minutes later. He apologizes. I don't know. I went in there with the, hey, Mark, how, anything that I could do to be positive, I was going to do. It changed my whole outlook. Uh-huh. It really did. And it was a great day. Yeah.
That's very spiritual. And reminds me of a key story in my life that is very similar. And Christian and Nancy are familiar with this story. Heidi might be also. I can't remember who in our group has heard it. But when I was in seminary, I worked as the audio visual assistant, and the guy in charge was the guy that ran the library, and he was my boss for 2 years doing that. And this is about, not quite a year and a half into that job, I had just a really terrible relationship as far as I was concerned with Larry. And nothing I ever did was right. And he just was really, really hard on me. And somewhere during that third semester of seminary, it got to be too much. And I certainly had what I felt like was limited power to question his behavior. I tried to work through this for quite a while, but I couldn't take it anymore, and I was going to quit. That morning, I quit. I got off for lunch, went back to my apartment, and I was going to quit. When I came back, I was going to walk into his office and give him my notice. But I was thinking, I said, okay, what does Jesus tell us to do, with those who spitefully use us and persecute us? He tells us to pray for them. And so I spent my lunchtime praying for Larry. And I wasn't praying, and I knew, it wasn't going to do any good to, pray like, God, make Larry shape up. Mm-hmm. I was just praying for Larry and asking God to bring blessing into his life and so forth. And I kid you not, I came back, and I had no idea that, I had no reason to think that Larry had any inkling that he, that maybe there was a real problem that might be coming to a head or anything like that. But I got back to work, went to the library. Larry calls me into his office, sits me down, and starts telling me what a great guy I am, what a good worker I am, how much he respects me, how much he appreciates me. And he says, and I know I'm really, I know I can be really abrasive and hard on you sometimes, but I just want you to know. And it was just like this, where did this come from?
Back up. Okay, what's going on here?
I know, and it was clear what was going on. Like that was it's not very often that you go and you obey Jesus and the positive, reaction to it is that abrupt. But that was what happened. Not unlike your situation with Mark. But I do also think it's important for me to admit, because it's nice to tell about times when I did the right thing, when I obeyed Christ and listened to him and listened to other people and tried to be, a person who builds bridges. But gosh, I don't do that all the time. And, and the sad thing is that the people who get the brunt of my worst reaction to insult are the people who deserve it the least.
Mm-hmm.
And that's people in my family.
Yeah.
And who's the person most likely to see me have a knee-jerk reaction? Nancy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The person who deserves my respect and love and understanding the most is probably the most likely to have me not take the time to sort out in my head first. She'll get the apology later, but it would have been nice, a lot of times for her to have me have thought of that ahead of time, and not perceived insult in what she was trying to say to me, So, and I don't have a lot of specific instances coming to mind, but that's a reality too.
So did we hit the point there?
I think we hit it.
Yeah. How we handle insults.
But I do think that one thing that I talked about on Sunday that is important to maybe think about is the fact that how we respond to insult is a serious matter in the Gospels. It's something Jesus deals with repeatedly. And I don't think it's a serious matter in our culture right now. I think people are not very concerned with having a positive response to differences with other people, differences of opinion. I think we actually live in a culture that at this moment in time is obsessed with giving the best insult possible, and giving back. If somebody crosses me, I'm going to I'm going to give them back with interest. And we glorify. Why? Why do we glorify people who are the best at being sarcastic, the best at tearing down somebody else? Why do we do that? And how do we get away from it? And I don't even see, I don't even see the desire for that, getting away from it in, like I said, in Christian broadcasting. I hear a lot of that same mentality coming from people on Christian radio.
Oh, really?
When I turn on Christian radio, it's same snarky, mean-spirited, these are our enemies, how do we cut them down, behavior. So I can turn it off pretty quick. But if as Christians we don't have a motivation to build bridges, even with those who we find obnoxious, even those who we disagree with, who does?
Yeah. So where do we get the desire to be like that?
I think.
Do you think every human being is capable of loving?
Yeah, I do. I do.
So
maybe some of us are, better prepared by our personality or our environment. But I do believe that every being is definitely capable.
Yeah, we're born that way.
Yeah.
It's a gift, isn't it?
I would say that's part of what it means to be human.
Yeah. Be human. So if we're not acting that way, are we human?
That's inhuman.
It's inhuman.
And who's our best model for humanity?
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Yeah. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's easy to understand his personality.
You do?
I think it's easy to understand Jesus's perspective, especially as a human being.
Yeah.
Put everybody else first. Put, giving.
Yeah.
Of course, he was on a mission.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's my mission? What's our mission?
Oh yeah.
I want to be on a mission.
And if I'm on mission, is that then is putting up with a certain amount of difficulty worth it because I'm on a mission.
Yeah. And if difficulty is just insult.
Yeah.
Come on. we were taught how to deal with it.
Something I said on Sunday is so should we be, because Jesus said a servant is not greater than his master. And by what he meant by that was if they were mean to me, and they were, they're going to be mean to you. And they're going to misunderstand. If they misunderstood me, and they did, they're going to misunderstand you. And so if I'm not greater than my master, should my pride be less capable of bearing insult than Jesus was? I mean, do I have more to be proud about than Jesus?
Okay.
No.
Right.
I am not. I don't have near as much due to me as Jesus does.
What's your definition of pride? False pride.
Yeah, the kind of pride I'm talking about is the kind where it's all about you.
Yeah.
Because I did that. That was actually something else I said. When we have to ask what really is due to us, and we are, and something that is due to us all is respect. We should not see ourselves as unworthy of the respect and decent treatment of others. That's actually the foundation for being able to treat other people with respect.
To do what?
To being able to treat other people with respect.
Oh, yeah.
But but we but at the same time, we have to look at our master and say, how did he deal with people who,
how did he deal with
how did he deal with people who treated him,
prayed for him
disrespectfully, And
did Jesus actually go out and pray for the Pharisees and the people who Pontius Pilate? Now, did he actually pray for them?
I can think of one conspicuous instance when he did. Was just on the cross.
Forgive
said,
them.
Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know that Jesus prayed a lot.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. We need to wrap it up here pretty quick, or we need to pause and have a final thought here pretty quick. But as I've been focusing on the first chapter of Mark lately, I was telling you about how I was starting to memorize parts of Mark, and Jesus has this big, one of his big first days of his ministry, and he spends a lot of energy healing people and confronting demons, and then early in the morning he goes out and finds himself a solitary place to pray, and guess what everybody does? They go find him.
Yeah.
They go find him. Yeah. They're like, Jesus, everybody's looking for you. Yeah. What are you doing here? Praying. And Jesus really could have just hauled off and said, look, can't you tell I'm having my quiet time? Just go away. And that wasn't how he reacted. He said, let's go to some other places so I can preach there too. Yeah. But I do think that praying was a big part of how Jesus dealt with all those negative things in the world. Because if he was staying close to God, then he was able to deal with a lot of that. We got a couple These are important. Oh, this is from Heidi. It is important to remember that not responding to negative with negative is not a sign of weakness. It shows strength of spirit. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think it's an excellent place for us to kind of draw this portion of the podcast to a close. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're going to continue the discussion here with the studio audience, but oh, and here's another one. Okay, I'm not gonna jump over it. Christian says, seems to me human nature tends to be confrontational and tribal. We get along or love those who think as we do. This sounds like Jesus. Not to say human nature is only evil. When I feel verbal confrontation coming on, I tend to respond in a fight or flight manner with full adrenaline. Let's see here. It's important to remember. Nope. Okay. This thing isn't letting me move the thing. Okay. When I feel verbal confrontation coming on, I tend to respond in a fight or flight manner with full adrenaline surge. I have to put myself in another person's shoes. And yeah, that's, I think, part of, this is like one of the gifts God has given us that God hasn't given my cat. My cat, when she feels threatened, she doesn't know how to put herself in my shoes. Mm-hmm. It's all coming from her emotions. I have an intellect that God has given me that allows me to make choices about my behavior and including my emotions. And that's, I think, what part of what Christian is talking about, that you have to consciously process what's happening in order to put yourself in the other person's mm-hmm. shoes. And that way you can start listening to where they're coming from, and not just what they're saying and how they're expressing themselves.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, God bless you all. We look forward to another time together with you. And we're going to pause the recording now and then continuing with the studio audience.